He whātōranga pū te haere ake nei, political turbulence ahead. Buckle up, brace for impact. National is down 2 points on 36. Those votes gobbled up by Labour, back in the respectable 30s for the first time in 9 months. Also up to the Green Party on 14, the Chloe Swarbrick co-leadership effect in full flight. But here comes the turbulence. ACT is continuing its free fall, now on 7, down for our 4th poll in a row, and bang, New Zealand First is down and out on 4. Winston Peters would not be in Parliament in what could be May Day for the coalition. Rounding things off, Te Pāti Māori steady on 4, maintaining one of its highest results in the OneNews variant poll. Let's ring around this way now to see how those numbers translate to seats in the House. National would have 48 seats in blue on that side. ACT gets 9, that's 57. And without New Zealand First, not enough to form a government. Looking at this side here, Labour in red would have 40 seats. The Greens 18, that's 1 more than National and ACT. And Te Pāti Māori with 6 seats is kingmaker. Time to bring up the preferred Prime Minister numbers now, and more bad news for Christopher Luxon, down 2 points on 23%. Chris Hipkins up 1 on 16. Chloe Swarbrick bouncing up 2 points to 6, nudging ahead of David Seymour, who's up 1 on 5. And Winston Peters is plummeting with his party down to 4. So there it is, a nightmare poll for the coalition government, which has been in power for just 5 months. Is the honeymoon period over? The Prime Minister may well reach for a bowl of hot noodles tonight. Winston Peters a super wine biscuit with a cup of tea. David Seymour some golden greasy fish and chips.
Exactly what we're looking for.
Coalition comfort food after a pummelling in the polls.
Polls will go up and down. We're not that fixated on them. What we are focused on is delivering for New Zealanders.
He says, give it a sec, New Zealand.
Ultimately, they will judge us in 3 years' time.
It's not the coalition, it's you.
Oh, look, I acknowledge it's a tough time for New Zealanders.
But just 5 months in the driver's seat, Nationals hitting speed bumps. New Zealand First is booted from Parliament. And the ACT Party,
You might be finding that there's a difficulty.
Continues to take a licking.
I remember year after year I used to bang away, and 7 was a dream. If you're trying to tell me that's now a nightmare, then I'm a pretty happy guy.
Winston Peters has arguably outworked most of Cabinet, leading a gruelling overseas schedule as Foreign Minister.
The situation in Gaza is an utter catastrophe.
But along with positive global headlines, he's also made negative ones.
Their DNA made them somehow better than others. I've seen that sort of philosophy before. I saw it in Nazi Germany. We all did.
For National, it's been a case of underperformance with 2 struggling ministers.
If only if I was a magician, if I could actually just snap up a solution, that would be fantastic.
Christopher Luxon had a solution.
I make interventions when I need to make sure I had good senior cabinet ministers dealing with those issues.
Since coming into power, the government scrapped, cut, tightened and reduced. Austerity in absolute overdrive.
We currently face a hangover from the last guy's borrowing and inflation. We now have to come away and take away the punch bowl from the party that's gone on too long.
Speaking of parties, the coalition's not always been a good time, with David Seymour accused of undermining the Prime Minister.
Some people would say that he's undermining me or I'm undermining him, and actually I don't listen to either of those people.
What New Zealanders can be reassured about is there is massive unity and single-minded purpose.
So you and him are all good?
We are dangerously united from the point of view of our opponents.
Now they just need to convince the public and regain voter confidence.
As we know, Mikey, polls are a snapshot in time. How big a deal are these poll numbers?
Well, look, I've said this once already today, but this poll will absolutely rock the entire Parliament. You will have MPs from political parties across the spectrum sending OMG WhatsApp messages to their caucus group chats right this very minute. And the reason is that this is largely unprecedented. To have a new coalition government just 5 months into power, essentially polled out of power, is almost unheard of. of. Now, I've looked back at previous OneNews variant polls in the past, and the last time a government party was voted out in a poll this soon after being elected was John Key's government of 2015 and Helen Clark's government in 2006. But the big difference there is that was third-term governments. This new coalition is only just getting started, so it will certainly hurt. Now, the big question is this buyer's remorse? Are voters sitting at home tonight thinking, oh, I'm not too sure, seeing cuts after cuts, crackdowns after crackdowns, day after day, and wondering exactly what they may have signed up for?
In your report, we heard from Christopher Luxon and David Seymour. What's Winston Peters saying?
I spoke to Winston Peters this morning. Now, he notoriously hates political polls. In fact, he said to me this morning he doesn't give a rat's derriere about the results. And look, I think we need to remember that Winston Peters, he is the comeback king. He clawed his party back into contention, back into power at the last election. There's no reason why he cannot do that again at the next election. The problem is that is 3 years away. OneNews polls consistently, and if the coalition cannot turn its numbers around, it will be death by 1,000 cuts to its confidence.